We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing some
I'm
things that I
Luis.
know you haven't
And you're
heard
listening to the
before.
Content is Profit podcast. Hey guys, and welcome back to Content is Profit. Today I have a special episode where we answer a ton of questions about podcast growth and actually monetization of your platform. Keep in mind, this also applies for majority of content frameworks or content styles, and we go through multiple resources in the episode on how we get some of the information, incredible podcasters, incredible resources for monetization and sponsorship and podcast guesting. So before we actually dive into the episode, please go ahead and go to bizrus.co/monetize to get your free resources. Those are the frameworks that we use to cross our first six figures when we first started this business, and it's helped so many people, including us, which we continue to revisit those, and you see those in action today, which is very exciting. So like I mentioned, very special episode. Shout out to Naomi. She reached out on social media after one of our call to actions here in the episode, and she's like, guys, I have a question. I have this podcast that I'm very passionate about, and I've experienced some friction. I want to monetize it. I want to go ahead and learn how to continue to grow, not just the podcast, but her community. So we dive deep into some of those questions. So it was a 20-minute call. We extended it a little bit more because, we got in the flow. So you'll hear about, 35 to 40 minutes of live call right here in the studio, helping her understand a little bit of the frameworks and what makes a podcast successful. So like I said, we share a ton of resources, and hopefully this will help you as well. All right, here's the episode.
It's kind of weird hearing you because I listen to the Content is Profit podcast like all the time, and it's just like a surreal thing to see you. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I feel very honored, and thank you for the kind words.
Of course.
Do we sound the same? That's the question I ask all the time.
Yeah, actually, you do. I mean, I can immediately, like, as soon as you started speaking, I was like, yeah, that's Luis.
Success. Yeah. And by the way, I'm going to add it here. We have a board that says best bro. So I'm going to add one tally to my name, not Fonzie's name.
No worries.
Sweet. So Naomi, how can I help you?
Just to keep it short, I guess I just wanted to know probably the best ways to grow and monetize my podcast, because I launched it on August 20th this year. So it's only about 3 months old. It's still a bit of a baby, but I have been seeing, like, obviously with a podcast, it's slow to grow, like many things, but with a podcast uniquely, it can be very slow to grow. I know that, and consistency is a big thing. And I'm not, consistency isn't really a big issue for me. Okay. Because I know that I can be consistent with it because it's something I definitely want to do. But for me, I just wanted to know different strategies to get that growth and get to that monetization stage, especially when I have, a certain level of limited capacity, and that is just me. I work part-time and I don't necessarily have like a studio or like really high-tech equipment or anything like that. Don't really have a team. So as yet, hopefully I can get one in the future, but that's basically where I'm at. And then recently, the last thing is just that I have seen, obviously, I mean, I might be being a bit paranoid, but in the last 2 episodes, at least, I've seen kind of a big drop in downloads, even though my downloads right now are small because I'm just starting out. I did see a drop in downloads. So I was just trying to figure out, what I can do to fix that. And then also just, once again, get to that growth and monetization.
Awesome. All good questions. All right. I'm going to go through, it's like 6 stages that we go through a little bit, almost like a little audit. So I'll ask you some very specific questions. I'll get those answers, and then that will give me a little bit of a better picture on like your capacity. Are you familiar with like the topics that we talk on, like the publishing pyramid and the minimum viable content?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool. I think you downloaded the resources, right?
I did download them. And I also listened to the last podcast on minimal viable. Yeah.
Awesome. So minimal viable content is something that we talk about all the time. I think you're there in a way, like consistency is not an issue. I will look at publishing pyramid, and then we haven't released this one like a lot, but a book is coming on this. It's like the 6 stages. So that's where you can like imagine the publishing pyramid under each one of these, and then you can engage and do that. So the first one is obviously, the what to say. So what's your topics, right? Like you talk about something very specific, which is
Yeah. So I mainly talk about, I don't have a specific niche really, but I have a
Okay.
target audience, and then it's mainly about just creating content that's relatable for 20 somethings. That's the main target audience,
Okay.
people in their 20s. But then it's also about not just creating relatable casual content, but stuff about personal growth, stuff that's also plaguing 20-year-olds lives, like maybe climate change or social justice, just things they can be informed on, but also in a very casual, conversational, and relatable way. So then sometimes we talk about, not serious topics like climate change or social justice, and we talk about things like confidence or, you know, personal growth in general. And then other times we talk about those more serious topics.
Okay, cool. So is it just you or do you have a co-host?
No, it's just me, but every now and then I do have a few guests.
Okay. Okay, cool. So there's when we talk to monetization, there's like three main markets, right? You see the relationships, health, and finances, right? So all those three are like core needs of the human being needs. So I would highly recommend, okay, focus on like one of those in a way. Sometimes like we're very passionate about the topics and we're like, okay, we can go about this. When we started the podcast, similar thing, we're like, oh, everybody can make, money with content. And we're like, at the time we had an agency where it's like, I don't want to do like the funnel agency, or I don't want to do the content agency. I don't want to do the thing agency. So the niche or like the topic itself can also be part of like that thing. So that's why we name content is profit. Content is profit. We go, okay, entrepreneurs want to make money.
Yeah.
So that's one of the core needs. But if you improve, if you solve a problem, that's the main thing that your content needs to do. Is like you need to solve a problem either on relationships. So you help people how to create better relationships with people around the world. So that will be like one vertical. You don't have to do all three. Like I would recommend start with maybe one of the columns, right? The second one is like health. So it could be how do we frame your message to, on personal growth, social justice, like your own health, mental health, for example, or it could be like your health as a human being and making sure that you're a better human being. So I'm helping you be a better person. With that comes a lot of like other things, as in like the person needs to acknowledge that they can be better. So at some point, you'll be attracting those. So you have to like play with that message a little bit. But then at the end, the other one's like, okay, I'm helping people how to make more money, which tends to attract more people. At the end of the day, you can decide of like which one of these. But a lot of people are searching for better relationships, right? A lot of people are looking to get healthier, right, as a person. So I think your show maybe lives in those two. And that will help you. Once you see it that way, you'll be like, okay, where are people looking for information to get in better health and become better people? And then you can start finding these communities online, or you can start finding these physical places where you can go and interact and be like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Naomi. This is my show. I would love for you to be part of it, right? In our specific case, we had Facebook groups when we launched the show. So we went to 1,000 Facebook groups and we were like, here's who we are. And we promoted the show there. And that started getting like the core listeners. And for us was like entrepreneurs that wanted to make money with content, right? So initially that's how we did. So on the topic, that's going to help you out. Now, the second lever, right? It will be like the creation, which it's like, how do you create the show? How often do you create the show? Do you when do you record? Like, walk me through the process a little bit. It doesn't have to be in detail. Like, do you record once a week? Once a month?
I release episodes every Tuesday, so it's once every week. I try to have maybe about 2 episodes in the rotation, so I wouldn't be like recording today and then having the episode being released that week. If that's the case, then I'm falling behind. So yeah, I usually have some things in the backlog before, but it's once every week.
Once every week. So two episodes a month, right? How long are they?
They are, I try to keep them average 30 minutes. Recently, the guest episodes have been maximum 1 hour. I'm trying to bring that down to like maximum maybe 40 minutes, but that I'm trying to like have an average of maybe 30, 40 minutes. If it's a solo episode and it's just me, maximum like 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Are you familiar with a show called Nudge by Phil? He's part of the network too.
No, I'm not actually.
Here, let me find you the link. He also releases twice a month, and I love how he does it. I think it's super cool, and he's also in the UK. So,
cool.
Here, I'll give you here in the chat. You'll see the link. I would have that as a case study show for like twice a month, because our conversation, and I'll send you later our show with him.
Okay.
We talked about this. We're like, okay, we're like a 3 times a week, 2 times a week show, high frequency. He's very low frequency, and he's doing really well. So I'm like, tell me more. How you doing it?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Hold on.
I think I'm a bit in the middle. Oh yeah, sorry. I think it's for me it's 4 times a month, because it would be once every week. So
okay. So once a week.
Yeah. So still minimum frequency, definitely not like high frequency like you guys.
It's and it's fine. I mean, Phil is like twice a month, and he does really well. So like, well, he really focused on like the production of it, so he has like a little bit more time, and he's like, I see it as an art form, like as a craft. So for him, when you listen to the episodes, you'll be able to see how he does it. And he's like, he introduces a topic, and then he has his own opinion on this thing. So maybe he interviewed 5 people or 4 people for like that one episode, or maybe 2 people, or maybe 1 person, right? And then he talks about the topic, and then he brings like almost like audio clips of that person giving his opinion on that. And so it's like his show, but with the collaboration of experts. I think it's super cool. Which, if you're familiar with like editing, and we'll talk about production in just a second, but like Descript, you can do that like very simple, and it's nothing too crazy if you have the structure ahead of time. So, okay, perfect. So you do once a week. All right, cool. So that's important. Obviously, I don't think you have an issue with the creation process. Most people do starting, but you seem like a very responsible human being. I'll be like, I'm very committed to this, Right. Were you a good student? Like, were you always on time with your assignments and things? Yeah.
I was a bit of an overachiever. Yeah.
Awesome. You should say that proud. So most entrepreneurs we deal with, they're not. So they're like, that's why I do my own thing. And, they struggle with this part. So you're good. All right. On production side, you say like you're producing it yourself right now. Like, walk me through like how long would it take you to like edit one episode, for example?
Depends. So if it's a solo episode and it's just myself, I could take maybe an hour to edit an episode if that's the only thing I was doing in that hour. If it's a guest episode, because the guest episodes are filmed, and I post the guest episodes as videos on YouTube, it does take a lot longer, because I do like different clips and stuff, and then I have to obviously like, I don't know, it's different editing just audio than it is editing like video and that kind of thing sometimes. So when it comes to editing a video, sometimes it can take a full day.
Yeah. So share with me, how do I find you on YouTube?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's Notes and Quotes podcast. So just notes and
quotes.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it here. Cool. I'll take a look at it, but yeah. By the way, it looks great, and you have
thank you.
You have awesome. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Cool. Where are you editing? Like what software?
Riverside mainly, but then I also use
Riverside.
Yeah. Mainly on that. I film guest episodes on Riverside, and then I edit the guest episodes on Riverside. But if I'm just doing an episode by myself, sometimes I find like GarageBand does what I need it to do, because it's just the audio.
Okay. Are you familiar with Descript?
I've heard of Descript. I just haven't looked into it, to be honest.
Okay. We've used all of it. My brother is like really good on Adobe products. The team is really good on Adobe products. I'm like a tinkerer. I'm not editor. And I found in Descript the best thing, because you know how in Riverside you have your text thing, and then you have that little timeline. Okay.
Yeah.
Descript has a text thing, so you have to like, you can download your Riverside files, almost like the synced ones, and then bring them together to Riverside. You get like this composition, and you can create like pre-templates where you can just like slide, and you have like these like scenes, and it's super simple to use, and it's very quick. So you'll probably reduce your editing time quite a bit.
Awesome.
So I will highly recommend look at a demo, you know, full disclosure, we're affiliates, obviously. I you don't have to use our link, I don't care. But watch like a YouTube video of like how to edit on this script, and you'll be like, that's the one. So I highly recommend it. You're gonna save a ton of time, especially if you have a guest. And then if you have I people keep telling us to do like a Descript like course. We don't have it. So at some point we'll do it. But if you want, I'm happy to do like a workshop free of charge. We hop on, we like, hey, here's how to do it, because this is one of the things that we're exploring doing. So happy to help you there.
Oh, I appreciate
that will save you a ton of production time, and then obviously that time and resources you can focus a little bit more on like the monetization side, because like at this point there's going to be some outreach that you might need to do, or developing. We'll get to that in just a second, but that gives me an idea of it. I'm also a big fan of like very raw content. So you're probably familiar with like, we make mistakes, we leave the mistakes, we do the thing, we do the thing. So that will take you also a lot of time off the editing. But if you're grabbing like, if your guest says something and you're grabbing a clip from it, are you grabbing clips from the guest, or are you grabbing clips to support the visuals of what they're saying?
No, I'm grabbing just clips from the guest. So like just for Instagram or TikTok or something, I would just do a few minute or 2-minute clip from the episode. Yeah. So
it will be, do you feel like they're pre-planned to where like, hey, we have these 3 clips and we're going to talk about these 3 clips with the guest, or they measure them and then you grab those clips?
Yeah. So I would just film the episode, and then when I'm editing afterwards, I'd be like, oh, what do I think could work as a clip? So it's not pre-planned really at all. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah, I will start looking at places in your production where you can save a ton of time, because it will burn you out, especially if you don't have a team. So I'll be like, okay, how can I make this a little bit more effective? So I'm like, okay, in our solo episodes, for example, and we're not the best at this, by the way, but we've done it a couple of times. Now we have help of a producer, so great. But we'll be like, okay, what are the 5 news that we want to talk about? Like, for example, or what are the 5, I think we released like a Alex Hormozi episode not so long ago. Yeah. Fonzie came in with like 3 clips, and that's what we reacted to, and he made it super simple. So we already know what we're talking about. I know with a guest it's a little bit harder to plan, but if you have like a 10-minute conversation with them ahead of time, you're like, oh man, I've seen this content, I really want to explore like this topic, and it almost creates a container. And then you have that idea whenever you're going to edit it, where it's like, I know where things go. Because I've been on both sides, like where it's like, oh, I love the free flowing conversation, but my commitment is like, I'm not going to do any supporting material because it's going to take me a ton of time, right? So you got to make that commitment, right? So it's just something to think about. Then after that, obviously distribution, which you said you're a little concerned on the download. So you have audio and you have video, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So audio, where are you distributing it? Like what platform?
So I use Buzzsprout as basically my main platform to just kind of disseminate it to almost all podcast streaming platforms.
So are you on all the platforms, right?
Yeah, basically everything, I think, except Amazon something.
Yeah, I would look into TuneIn, which is the Amazon one. We recently got like yeah. Are you on that or no?
No, so no, I'm not. I think that's one of the only ones I'm not on. Yeah.
Yeah, I will go into the Buzzsprout page where it says all the directories and like get into all of them if you can. Especially TuneIn, for some reason, we got a massive downloads from like a spike recently because they integrate that application with some players in cars. So it auto plays a bunch of podcasts. So it helps you be discovered. So I will put that in there. Like that's something that HubSpot told us. Be like, because I was like, what is this? I have no idea where it was coming from. And they was like, yeah, and they do airplanes and they do things. So they place shows depending on it. Again, I don't know what the algorithm does or works or how it does it, but I'm like, it comes from there. So put it on there, obviously, if you can. Is your main traffic, like, is your podcast mainly audio or mainly video? Like, where do you see the most traction?
So I think I usually see the most traction whenever I have a guest. So I guess that would be video, but it's a bit of a mix. I think it mainly depends on the topic, because some people tend to be less I get less, like lower downloads if it's more of a serious topic, and then I get more downloads if it's more of a topic that I guess people can immediately relate to. So it's a bit of a mix, but I would say that there are more audio than video episodes in total.
You have more audio episode published or more? Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry.
Is your show bigger in audio form or on video form? Like where do you get the most downloads?
Okay. Sorry. Right. Yeah. So in
audio.
audio.
No, huh?
In audio form for sure.
In audio form. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So there's a couple levers here, right? It's obviously YouTube alone can be its own topic. So we're gonna like put it a little bit like it would apply to that, but you can go through like the thumbnail rabbit hole. You can go through the headline rabbit hole, and then your SEO work rabbit hole. So I'll leave Mr. Beast videos to do that. There's amazing creators that are like video podcasts first. They're called Colin and Samir. I will watch some of their interviews, and Youshaei as well is super cool. So here I'll share the channels with you. But they talk a lot about video podcast specific stuff, which
are you ready to see your brand?
Here, I'll put him in the chat again. This is Colin and Samir, and then John Youshaei. Can never spell his right name. But John is part of our network too, and he's awesome. He does very, very cool things. So he goes and he interviews creators, and then they talk about these elements that help. So on YouTube, if you enjoy consuming content, I recommend those guys. But basically, long story short is like, okay, what will be a title that can attract? So like, are you leaning towards being polarizing, not being polarizing, right? So that's the fun part. Most people are like, I want to stay in the middle. So polarizing, you don't have to create and steer the pot, but you're like, okay, my opinion is this one, right? And then you talk about why that's your opinion. So, I'm a dad. So, and I'm a Hispanic dad. Most people here in America love gentle parenting. I don't know if you saw online recently, but there's like this girl at Walmart, like destroying things. Like it's this clip that went viral. The Walmart girl, you saw it, right? Okay. Yeah. I'm like, dude, I will kill my kid if he does that. I will literally drag him by the feet. I know, I'm kidding, by the way. But I'm like, I will be a little more stern. Like the first second that he's like, I'm walking out of the store, like this is unacceptable, right? Like this is not happening. So my position is that. So maybe my content is about that position, right? And I'm like, well, maybe parents will react to this. So maybe it's okay to be in the middle. No. My opinion is this one, right? So that will attract those people that resonate with that message, and it will repel the people that don't, right? Which is fine, right? Most people sometimes we're scared of like, if I say this thing, I'm going to lose everybody. That's okay. You'll lose the people that are not attracted to that message, but then it will attract the people that actually resonate with me. And that's the beautiful part about YouTube, because with the clips, they help you discover that. So the more like you're leaning towards your opinion, and it's okay. At some point, like if you decide that you're wrong in that opinion, maybe do an episode. I'm like, I was wrong on that thing, right? And it's okay. We can always retract. So I will recommend, leaning towards that thing. On the audio platforms, there's a couple of elements that I would like you to start looking at, which is you can look at these in your creators for Spotify app. I don't know if you have it, but and then you can also look at it on the back end of the Apple. So Apple Podcast platform on the back end. Mm-hmm. And what the two things that you want to look at are your 7-day downloads, which indicate, okay, is people attracted to my headlines? Mm-hmm. So if you're like, okay, let's say you have an average of, I don't know, 1,000 downloads per month, right? Or per episode, let's say per episode. And then all of a sudden you publish one and it's like, okay, the first 7 days I had a 2,000. What happened? Like, did we promote it on a different channel? Did we promote it? Like, did we send 1,000 episodes to 1,000 people more, right? Like what happened? What's the outlier? And then you can test that out. So the more you can get on those 7 downloads, that indicates that people are discovering your show and they're downloading it immediately, right? Maybe you start sending an email to your email list if you have an email list with the episode, and that helped promote. So that's the immediate download, 7 days. Then you're going to look at your 30 days. The 30 days, means basically are people downloading my long tail episodes, right? So the launch, the first 7 days is people that are like subscribers following your show and different things. And if you try a different marketing campaign, as in maybe you launch a website and the website has a link to your show, for example, or maybe you guest on a different show and you promoted it, then that's the 30 days is going to tell you that.
Right.
And then you're going to start looking at consumption rates. So Apple does this really well. It will tell you people consume like 60% of your episode or 20% of your episode. So you're going to start looking at like, okay, what's my average? What's the outliers of like, what are the episodes that people download the most, right? Or listen the most? I want people listening to the entire show versus the ones that are like, maybe people completed 10%, right? So you want to do more of what people are consuming. So that's feedback, right? So in our specific case, when we first started with like solo episodes, I don't know how long have you been listening to the show, but we did one at an event where our commitment was 3 a week. And we jumped in a car and we were like, crap, we haven't recorded today. And we basically grabbed the iPhone and we recorded our thoughts on that event. And the episode lasted about 15 minutes. It was the first one that we did about 15 minutes. Everybody downloaded it. Everybody listened to the whole thing. And we're like, we should be doing solo episodes and we should be doing shorter solo episodes. So we started testing it out and it worked out. And now solo episodes resonate a lot. So start looking for those indicators. Okay. Then on distribution, it's like, okay, same thing about your topics. Look at like, where are your people hanging out online? Is there Reddit threads that they're going? Are they Facebook groups? Are they communities that they're hanging out? Are they masterminds that they're doing? Are they physical events, physical meetups that you can show up and do this? And every event is an opportunity for you to support the group by maybe providing the episode. So let's use a Facebook group spikes, for example, right? You find a Facebook group that people are talking about these topics and you search, let's say you're talking climate change, right? And you search climate change and there's going to be a few people that are going to be commenting on those things. Reddit threads, same thing, like ask me anything, things like that. And then you're going to see maybe 5 people respond to their comments. Maybe they're asking a question, give your opinion on it. And like, hey, by the way, Alex and Filippo, who owns a platform called Podmatch, which I highly recommend, he does this every single episode. He goes in there, he's part of his routine. He's the CEO of this company. He does it every single day. And he answers questions. So like, hey, by the way, this is my opinion on this. And I have an episode about that topic. If you're interested, here it is. And you send them that specific episode. And if that person can log in and say, but every single person that goes and reads those comments, then they're going to be like, oh, maybe that's interesting. And then those links are going to start to live online and it's going to help you get traffic. So Alex's goal is to actually get 1 new listener a day. So that's what he does. That's the goal. And eventually like he compounds, right? So that's a very like grassroots organic tactic that you can do. We've run ads to show, I don't know if you have a budget to run ads, but I probably don't recommend it immediately. You can get a spike in the 7-day downloads. Our personal retention was about 3%. So we just like growing organically. Another thing is maybe find newsletters that talk about your topic. If you subscribe to newsletters and email lists and things like that, be like, what are some people that are sending cool emails about these topics, right? And then reach out to them, be like, hey, I have these episodes. It resonates a lot with it. I would love to have a way to collaborate with you. And then if you place the podcast on those newsletters, because newsletter readers tend to listen to podcasts, it's a good traffic source. And now remember this, podcast listeners listen to podcasts. So if you go and, promote your show on other shows, right, you can do that. Podmatch, I'll send you the link because I think this is one that you must be on. It's $6 a month, but you can connect with other podcasters and you can guest on other shows. So if you guest on other shows, their listeners are going to resonate with you and they're going to transfer that. Podcast listen to podcasts. So those are like the main drivers that for like a podcast listenership that you can try out. And then obviously we talked. Let me see. I'm not sure. I have some buffers, so I'll continue because I promise we talked about monetization. We haven't got it, but I needed to get those out of the way because like that's like the base to this. All right, monetization. When you say monetization, what do you want? Like, what do you picture? Is it like a sponsorship? What is it?
So I'm always interested in like diversifying monetization. So I'm interested in sponsorships. I'm also interested in like maybe possible collaborations, maybe affiliate marketing, maybe ads, stuff like that. Or if it's like communities on Patreon or something like that, I'm kind of open to all of them because I'm new. I don't know which ones obviously will work best for me. So I'm kind of willing to try it all.
Okay. Monetization is also one of those rabbit holes. The fastest way that we've seen a podcast being monetized almost with no audience is by selling something. And it's not by selling something to the audience, it's by collaborating with the people that you bring into your show. So I'll give you an example. Like we sell our services like that. We've mentioned it on the show many times. Like we bring people on the show, we find a way to collaborate with them. That person has an introduction to what we do, which is a service.
Yeah.
So in your specific case, what is that something that you offer, right? So I know you don't have to answer me right now, but like, could you sell something? Could you have a resource that you can share with people? So I'll give you an example. We had somebody jump on and they wrote children's books, and they were trying to sell individual books, right, through a funnel. So we're like, okay, maybe you have a podcast, you're passionate about your podcast, you bring guests on the shows. Why don't you bring and start collaborating with like head of libraries or head of schools or head of daycares because you have a kid's book, and after that conversation about the parenting that you talk about, you can ask them, be like, hey, Luis, I would love to collaborate with you. Is there a way that we can place 1,000 books in your library, right? Is there a way that do you have an email list that we can promote the book and sell it there? Those kind of things. So with your specific topics, again, I don't know what you could offer on the back end. That's, you can play around.
Yeah, brainstorm it. Yeah.
It could be workshops, it could be events, it could be these different things. And that'll probably be the fastest way that you can do it. The higher the ticket, obviously, the better. I don't know how familiar you are with or how comfortable you are selling stuff, but that could be it, right? Maybe you have a resource and it starts that way and you start collecting emails and then you start asking your community, hey, what do you guys want, right? A good channel is, all these channels and examples have been doing it for years, but Yes Theory is a good example, right? They started with a community. I don't know. Are you familiar with Yes Theory?
No, not yet. No.
So they're a YouTube channel, super awesome. And they started doing just random random challenges online. They'll be like, I'm going to go on the street and find 5 people to say yes to me doing this thing, right? But they're like they're not like TikTok toxic. they're very wholesome, right? And they grew because they started collecting emails on their shop. They started, having that. And then they asked the people, like, what else do you want? And the people told them. So be like, okay, based on your topics, what's a cool resource that you can share with people on your email list? So it could be, okay, here are the top 10 episodes, and you create that list and you host it in a little site, right? It could be like a high level site, ClickFunnels, or it could be a Google Doc with links with like you saw a resource, a Google Doc. Most people are downloading it. It's very simple. Here are the top 10 episodes, or like, here are the top questions that, my guests ask, or here are the top 10 questions about these topics, and here are the answers to them. Like, what's a very cool resource that you can give in exchange to your listener, right? And you can start building that email list and collaborating and sending people to that email list. And then from that email list, let's say you have 100 people on that email list, you start communicating with them like they're your friend. They're like, hey, Luis, I know that you're, welcome to my email list. I want to get to know you a little bit better. We talk about these topics, and we're thinking about these solutions. What do you think? And then they're going to start responding you back, and then you can build a product that's for them. So I would recommend those two. Start looking into maybe solutions like that. A newsletter is another option that you could do. That requires emails and a little bit of a database type thing. As far as sponsorships, we have Justin here. How to land big sponsorship deals, even if you're just starting out. So I'll send you the link to this episode. It's the 456. I don't know if you've listened to it, but he just released a book. Justin Moore.
Okay.
about getting sponsorships for small things, and these are like bigger sponsorships. Do not go by it's called CPM model, cost per thousand, because they're gonna pay you like at $25 per thousand downloads. That's nothing. So this guy, he teaches basically how to pitch a sponsorship to these brands that could be aware. So highly, highly, highly recommend him. He's awesome. He just launched his book, like I said. At the bottom of that page, you'll see his social media, and I think the links should be there. It's called the Sponsor Magnet. So if you're looking into sponsorships, I will maybe look at that resource. Number one, he's brought in more than $4 million in sponsorships for him and his wife. So we connected with him, and super awesome. So those are a couple of ways. I'm a big fan of selling our own thing, because that's what we do, sell service. But email list, number one. Every single person is going to tell you, start building that email list. So what's a resource that you can share with them? And your first guest is your first audience member. So whenever the guest comes, we have 3 questions that we like to ask at the end of every episode behind camera. So we're like, hey, thank you so much for coming to the show. It was a great experience. Is there something that we can help you with? So always lead with value, right? They're going to tell you, yes, no worries. Oh man, you can help me with introducing me to this. Okay, perfect. By the way, I don't know if this is for you, but we do X, obviously. In your case, I don't know if this is for you, but I have this resource. Will you be interested? And then you can send them the link where they can sign up and download it, or you can sign them up on your computer right there. Be like, oh, perfect, I'm sending it to you right now. And then you collect that lead. And then it's like, hey, is there other people that maybe they're interested in talking about these topics, or they're interested in these resources? And you can describe your dream person to connect with, and they're going to give you 2 or 3 names. And then be like, hey, Luis, Justin sent me I just had him on my show. Here's the link to my show. So every opportunity, just put that link in there. And you'll be surprised on like how that momentum goes. As far as the downloads, I know that you had that question as we wrap up, is sometimes the platforms make a small change and we don't know exactly what it is, and we see a dip. We saw it at the beginning of last year with our audio. Horrible. It was like, are people actually listening to our show? And then it was like a setting that they changed on Apple, and it completely, like, it went back up. So we don't know. So that's why I would explore what we talked about, the 7-day, 30 downloads, and look at trends of like what's happening. Be like, to maybe spot it. It's like, what did I do this day differently to cause that, right? In our specific case, when we are not high energy in our episodes, we see that people don't listen as much. So we're like, let's be high energy. To motivate this. But anyways, I know it was a lot of information for like very small amount of time, but I hope it helped a little bit.
Oh my gosh, no, it helped so much. I was like making all these notes while you were talking. So it's like, it's immensely valuable, and I really, really appreciate it. So thanks so much, Luis.
Awesome. I put the links in the chat, the pod match. I will start guesting as soon as possible. Put a goal to go on other shows at least like once a week minimum, where you have your show, because that is the fastest way. The second other podcast listeners listen to our podcast grows. The clips, they help create awareness. Like YouTube has been growing. We have a very small YouTube podcast. Our main platform is audio. But a YouTube content consumer is a very different consumer than a podcast listener. So people don't understand that most of the time. I think you do, but have them in both. It's fine. Like your YouTube will grab consistency on its own. But for audios, is a better audience too. It's like there are people that take action. There are people that probably that you want to connect, for future projects in your life. I don't know where you are at that point, but you probably want the people that listen better than like the YouTube shorts.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. I know. Okay. Do you have any questions?
I genuinely don't even think I have any questions. If I do, maybe I'll shoot you a message, but like, I don't think I have anything at the moment. Cool. So there's just obviously a lot to like go through. So I really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, send us a message. My last question to you is, sometimes we publish this as an episode. Would you mind if we publish this one as an episode?
Not at all. No, I'd be honored. That'd be so cool.
Awesome. Okay, well, it's your opportunity to plug your show. Naomi, like
Yeah.
How do we find you? This was so awesome.
Listen to the Notes and Quotes podcast. We're on pretty much all podcast streaming platforms. If you want to catch us on any of the socials, we're on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I'd be happy to have anyone join the community. So yeah, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for being a super good sport. And again, just reach out if you have any questions. We're happy to support.
Amazing. We'll do. Well, I know you have to run, so I'll let you go.
All right. Take it away. Bye.
All right, welcome back. I hope that was super helpful. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with Naomi. Shout out, all her link is going to be like right here below. All you got to do is scroll down and check her out. Go support her podcast. Go ahead and follow her journey. Can't wait to see what turns out to be. So, last thing is go ahead and don't forget to go to businessresults.co/monetize, get your free resources, and let me know if you have any questions. If you want to jump on a call like Naomi just did, go ahead and send me a message on DM. One of the things that she says is like, I can't believe this is actually you. And I'm like, yes, I promise. This is me. And we're here to help. We're here to serve. We enjoy doing this. So until it becomes unscalable and crazy, we won't stop doing it. So go ahead, send me that DM and we'll chat. All right, take care. Bye.